mic.
Oh, we're live. Oh my god, I started the live. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. We are live. So we're
All good.
live
All
on.
good.
So this is our first time like live streaming, guys. Welcome to the Superhero Post podcast. We are live streaming on my main pages for my Facebook superhero page and my YouTube superhero page. We're so happy that you guys are here. So if you guys don't know, this podcast is ran by three people: me and Comics Cuts. You and Matt whenever he feels like hopping on. you know, but these us two, these are the main faces that you're going to see
And Matt, when he's
forever.
got that fire in his
Yes,
mind and he
when
hating
he's
on
angry,
something, yeah,
exactly. Because I do have some news for him that's going to piss him off. And the news is that Rey is going to be coming back. Apparently, that's a rumor.
you know, I when you said you got news that's gonna piss him off, I got so excited because I wanted to hear his perspective on it. But that is just such bad news, and
Bro,
I'm
right?
pissed off by it. Also, fucking
See,
dude, Star Wars has done so much right and so much wrong, and if they didn't go with this woke nonsense, they would be killing it on all fronts.
I definitely agree. I mean, I just feel like because like now that we're talking about Star Wars, I thought that Rey was a great character. I think Rey is a great character. Rey, for some reason, I just cling fond. I'm very fond of her. She's one of my favorite characters in Star Wars, and I feel like there was a lot that you could do with Rey in Star Wars, but for some odd reason, bro, they just kept it so surface level. And to be honest, the main issue of why Rey didn't work, bro, was because they didn't actually write for her. Like, there's this article where Daisy really got interviewed about her time at Star Wars and all of this stuff. And bro, hear me out. She didn't even know who Rey. She didn't even know that Rey was a Palpatine. You know why? Because they didn't make that up until the freaking last like movie.
Jesus.
So how?
See,
So like, yeah. What were you saying?
that's one of the things that Marvel always gets right. Like they don't. We talked about this last episode. They don't switch mid plan. Like if they have a plan and one movie doesn't necessarily do so well, like they might pivot, but they're not going to jump ship. And I think it was very prevalent that that's what happened in the most recent trilogy. You know, and I agree. I think Ray had more potential. I know, I obviously would have preferred a different character based on what I said a minute ago, but
Yeah.
I think Star Wars has crushed it with the shows aside from Boba Fett, and it's not that Boba Fett was a bad show because it wasn't. My issue with Boba Fett was that I'm getting on a tangent, but let's go back to Ray for a second.
Go ahead. Go
And I'll
ahead.
get in.
Let's go.
Okay, so Boba Fett wasn't a bad show by any means, but my two issues with Boba Fett was number one, that the Mandalorian and Obi-Wan were just so much better that it made Boba Fett feel kind of insignificant in the grand scheme of things. And on top of that, what really made me feel that way when the best episodes of Boba Fett were Mandalorian episodes just in the Boba Fett series. So that kind of bothered me. Boba Fett's supposed to be this iconic character. He's like the only I don't want to say the only one. Well, he's the only one of the three shows that's the titular character and has his own show. His show should have been a fucking banger, but it was not.
Yeah,
And
I agree. And everyone was hoping, including me, for Boba Fett to be like one of the best shows, to freaking like, like one of the best shows on Disney Plus for Star Wars. But I think that it suffers from the same thing that Obi-Wan did. It seems like they didn't put their money into it. Like, doesn't Obi-Wan come off to you as a low budget fan film?
no, I know a lot of people didn't like Obi-Wan. I think it may even be the best, or it's one of my top Disney Plus shows. I thought it was great, seeing Star Wars face off on Obi-Wan and that other
You
character.
mean?
Uh,
Oh yeah,
I loved Obi-Wan. I didn't have really any problems with it. I know
really?
I'm in the minority there, but yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously Reva was like the most annoying piece of the show, But aside from that, I mean, the show was good. I just do think that the cinematography seemed very like downgraded from what it was before. I don't know. Like that Vader and when Vader first found Obi-Wan and they went to go fight, it just came off super like weird. It gave me fan film vibes. I don't know why. And maybe it's like the desert they were in. I'm not sure, but it was kind of weird. It felt like in the first two episodes we get these crazy like CGI like cities, and then like as we go on, it's like the quality got worse until the end. It was kind of weird.
Yeah,
But hey,
that might be the case. I like the story though, and uh, it seems like and this is a big thing with Marvel now. It seems like everyone's hating on the quality, and not even to go back into the Ant-Man thing, but I'm sure you saw there was something that started to go viral online. The VFX people on Ant-Man said, "Oh, human greed." Like, yo, if you work on a movie or a game and people complain about the movie or the game, and you just come out and are like, "Oh, well, stop it." Stop it. Obviously, that's a big part of the industry where you have to work a lot and meet a deadline. Like, and listen,
we all deal
it,
with that. I mean, like we all got
yeah,
thousands. Yeah, like you're not the only
right.
ones, bro.
I
We
have
make we make thousands of dollars less than you guys, and we still have the same like stipulations in our
e-
day to day.
everything I do in my work aside from this is deadline driven. And
Same.
by the way, if you get into something and the deadline is too close, like that business is just impossible to get. So that's a big part of it. And obviously that's a big part of it in Hollywood. Like, and I know that there are going to be people, that's the problem with like social media nowadays. And, people are like, oh, well, they're being worked too hard. Like this and that. Like, dude, if you don't want to work hard, like
Quit.
go get an hourly wage job at like a local store, like, but if you want to have a cool job and work on dope shit and make good money, like, you got
Excellence
to be able,
requires excellence, man. Like this content is the top quality, man. So I
yeah,
mean, if you want to produce the best quality, then you have to work like you have the best quality.
yeah,
Period. But yeah,
big things require big skills and big, for a lack of a better word,
yeah.
I'm just there.
So Star Wars Celebration is going to be happening soon, and it is going to be in the UK. And the rumor that's been going around, my people, in comic cuts, is that basically Rey is going to be coming back. That the sequel trilogy is probably going to focus. So they're going to bring back the sequel trilogy, and that they're probably going to be focusing on other side characters, but Rey is going to be in the sequels. Okay, so how do you feel about that, bro? Like, so did you even like the sequels?
So I thought the 8 and 9 were okay. I remember like enjoying the experience watching them for the first time, but I never went back and watched any of them. I want to do a Star Wars rewatch 1 to 9. So,
Let
but
bro, we can document all that if you want, dude. I'm down.
yes, yes,
Let's
and
document it.
that would actually be a really cool series of podcasting. But I do, like first of all, my favorite trilogy, and I don't think I'm biased here. I really do think the best trilogy is by far, episode 1 to 3. One thing about, and I'll tell you why.
I
One thing
agree.
about Star Wars that makes it so incredible is it's a very villain driven world. And what I mean by that is the best character in the first trilogy, episode 4 to 6, was obviously Darth Vader. I think Darth Vader is probably the most popular favorite in all of Star Wars. Growing up, Darth Vader was my favorite. Then Anakin was my favorite. He obviously is Darth Vader. And I think in the last trilogy, Kylo Ren was my favorite character. So when you look at episodes 1 to 3, what did that one have that the other ones didn't? It had the best character crossing over from Jedi to Sith. So you see the progression of the best character from the Jedi to the dark side. I mean, it's just such an incredible, and by the way, uh I think more franchises would benefit from stories based on the progression, because obviously people don't, not everyone starts out bad. Like, I'm a big Bond fan. Goldeneye, for example, you have 006 Alec Trevelyan in the beginning, and he becomes the supervillain. Like, I think that would be a cool story to explore that. So I thought the progression of Anakin in the first trilogy was the best. And when I look at the most recent trilogy, there's a couple things I like about it, a couple things I don't. Number one, I thought Kylo Ren was great. Number two, I thought, who was the other guy? John Boyega is his
Finn.
name, I think. Finn, he was great. Rey, she's all right, but like, how do you bring Luke Skywalker in and have that atrocity? If you're gonna bring it back, major characters, and it's similar to what we spoke about with No Way Home. Like, and I listen, I do agree with some of the things that were said on both sides. I bringing in Toby and Andrew, I do think that it was a decision to sell tickets, but they did make it work in the story. Uh, I think Luke Skywalker was brought in to sell tickets, and it really did not work for the story. It it didn't benefit the story. The CGI didn't look so great at the time. And listen, I know I called that out, but I really don't complain about the CGI a lot. Like, I have friends that like, oh, the CGI, like, you'll rarely hear me say that. So
Yeah.
if you do hear me say it, no, it was really that bad. But what's your take on the most recent trilogy?
So I have like a weird like relationship with the sequels because like um a part of me loves them, a part of me hates them. Not hates them, but I don't know say hates. Hates a strong word. Like the sequels, I don't know if they've aged better or I just understand it better. Like everyone hates The Last Jedi. I actually like that movie now.
What did you not like about it in the beginning, and what made you like it more now?
Do I like more? Oh, about the I think what I didn't like about the Last Jedi was just the whole depiction of Luke Skywalker, and I didn't like how, like, for me personally, I felt like the movie should have been heavily. I feel like the sequel trilogy honestly should have been focused on Luke Skywalker and like I yeah, what's up, Matt?
What's up, Matt?
So what's up? So real quick, so we are talking about the news that obviously Star Wars celebration is happening, and the rumor is that they are diving back again into the sequels, and that Rey and they said that they're going to focus on other characters, but Rey is going to be there apparently. But yeah, I mean, so like with the Last Jedi, bro, or even with like the whole sequel, I was expecting like the focus to still be on Luke and Leia and Han, and kind of them like passing the baton to Finn, Rey, and Poe, and I'm saying like this is before the Force Awakens even came out. It was first announced. Like I I honestly, bro, thought that Finn was going to be like the main guy, and I thought that Rey was going to kind of be like the side quest Han Solo type or whatever. You know what I mean? I didn't think Rey was going to be the center. So I think that it's like for me, I felt like Rey being the center of what seemed like to be a feud between the Skywalkers and like Snoke kind of felt like out of tune because it seemed like we have Rey who's like battling Kylo Ren, like, and I get it, like it's a beef going on, but it also feels out of place because it seemed like all Kylo, like the only person Kylo wanted to fight was Luke, you know what I mean, and Leia and
Yeah.
Han, but like Rey just stood in the way. So it was like to me, it just felt like super disingenuine. But let me not say this. I don't think I like The Last Jedi, but I understand what Ryan Johnson was trying to do. I'll say that. Like
I
I
thought,
understand what he was trying to do because what he was trying to do is like he was trying to show basically that Anakin and Luke had the same fall just in different ways, right? Because if you take a look at the prequels, right, they both they and it took someone to explain this to me for me to understand like his way of thinking, but it still didn't work out well because they said that Ryan Johnson's way of doing it was he was trying to show that Anakin and Luke had a similar fall, and apparently the fall was that they both saw a future and they both tried to prevent the future, but them trying to prevent the future is what makes things go bad. You know what I mean? Because technically
Yeah.
Anakin did that. And so what they were trying to show and what Ryan Johnson was trying to show in the sequels is that Luke did the same thing. And I personally don't think that was the best way to go in The Last Jedi.
They could
That's
have
what I'm
made
saying.
that so much cooler. But
Yeah.
you know, I thought The Force Awakens was great, and it gave me a lot of hope for 8 and 9, and then 8 came out and 9 came out, and like listen, they were not bad movies, you know, but like they didn't live up to the hype. And looking back, even when I walked out of the theater, like I was just like, I was let down. I was let down. I thought,
Yeah.
you know, coming out of the gate, episode 7 was strong. And, you know, I don't even really remember the stories all so much as why I want to watch all of them in order, you know, but yeah. And, you know, that's a really interesting take on, you're right.
Yeah.
Like, and I never thought about it that way about Luke.
Yeah,
and
that was
Anakin.
and that was exactly, bro. And that was way huge on go. But this is what rattles my cage about the sequels, right? And Matt, you can
We're not
jump
gonna
in
talk
on
about
you
how that
can.
just doesn't make any sense though. Like
Oh,
Anakin's whole fall is literally foreshadowed through the entire first trilogy. Like they just decided, like in Episode 8, oh yeah, by the way, or in Episode 7, by the way,
oh yeah,
Luke decided he wanted to prevent the future. It will just go right back to what we were talking about before. Like the whole thing makes no sense. Like the whole point of Episode 6 is that Luke doesn't fall to the dark side. Like that's his whole thing, is that he stays true to the light the entire time. He's able to redeem his father. He's the only one who's able to do that. And then in Episode 7, they're like, yeah, forget about all that. He actually is going to try to turn to the dark side slightly. Like
and that's
the
why,
problem with the
bro,
sequel
and that's why I
trilogy
think
is
it's
they're not
nasty.
Star Wars movies. They have no Disney has no appreciation for Star Wars lore at all. They don't care about any of the characters that came before. They do the exact same thing that we talked about last time on the podcast, which is that they want to take things that they buy, like Marvel and Star Wars and all these things, and then slightly tweak the character that's already made, change the name, be like, that was us. And that's
Yeah.
not at all. That's why it didn't work. That's why all the characters sucked. Rey was a horrible, horrible attempt at making a new Jedi, which was still based on something George Lucas had already written into his version of the sequel trilogy, which Disney has. Poe Dameron is literally a Han Solo knockoff. Finn is like the most original character out of the whole thing, even though his character gets minimal development throughout the entire sequel trilogy. He just like pops up for comic relief and then goes away. And then like Leia is like, even though they hinted at her being force sensitive because she's related or because she's Anakin's daughter, they don't talk about it at all in the original trilogy, and then they don't talk about it at all in this trilogy until she's randomly floating in space, which made no fucking sense
Yeah,
at all.
exactly.
Like the movies are awful because they literally ignore everything about Star Wars that makes it great. And then they're just like, nah, we can do it better. Even though in reality, every time someone says I can do it better, it's always worse. Every time.
And
the
then
plots of these movies are
bro,
dumb.
wait,
There's
hold
no
on,
focus
hold
on
Matt.
the lights on the Force or Jedi training whatsoever. Like Rey just shows up and just randomly is able to use the Force. We
and
still
that's what
don't.
I was about to say, bro. Hold on. We got to stay on that, bro, because, bro, Anakin Skywalker had to be trained, bro. Luke Skywalker had to be trained, and those people are, bro. Their power levels are leaps and bounds ahead of Rey, but somehow in
Yoda
the
had
Force
to be trained.
Awakens, but somehow in the Force Awakens, with no lightsaber training whatsoever, no training in the Force
or Force training at all.
She fights Kylo to a stalemate. And Kylo is OP as well. She fights
She doesn't
him
even
to
fight him to a
stalemate.
stalemate. She technically beats him.
Yeah,
like I don't think he ever hit her.
Off of pure
did hit him,
bro.
though.
That's crazy to me, bro. Like that's like to
it
me,
also
that's
really,
nuts.
really, really pissed me off when Disney then rebranded Anakin's lightsaber as Rey's lightsaber. That shit pissed me the fuck off beyond belief because it just further proved my point that they have zero consideration or care for like Star Wars lore or the fan base at all. Like I said, they just see everything as terms of profits, and that's why this shit sucked. Like I don't think Daisy Ridley's a bad actor. I definitely don't think Adam Driver's a bad actor.
Yeah,
But
it
like the
wasn't their
problem,
fault.
no, it's not their fault at all. The problem is the script they were given is absolutely horrible. It makes no sense. Like episode 7 is the only one that I actually slightly enjoyed when I first watched it, but I still watched it and immediately knew this shit's gonna suck because when they made on top of like all the shit about her randomly learning how to fight with a lightsaber and use the Force,
Yeah.
out of nowhere, like as soon as they talked about Luke randomly trying to kill Kylo, I was like, this does not make any sense for Luke's character at all. Like literally not even a little bit. And it's because they even talked about how their version of Luke Skywalker is not Luke Skywalker from the original trilogy. Like that's why like it actually irritates me that they call it the sequel trilogy. It should really just be called the standalone trilogy because like Disney themselves literally said they didn't care about the relationships from the previous movies. They didn't care about anything like outside of using it for their plot. Like that's why like Mark Hamill talked about it a lot about him having to like actually like beg with the studio and fight with them just for him to wink at 3PO in the scene in The Last Jedi because they didn't even want him to acknowledge them. He literally was like, "Why would I show up around all my friends and not say anything to anyone?" And he's like, and they were like, "Yeah, because you don't know them." And he's like, "What do you mean I don't know them? I just spent the last fucking 30 years with them."
By the way, and you're right. But you know why they wouldn't call it the standalone trilogy?
It wouldn't be as profitable.
Exactly.
It wouldn't be as profitable.
All about the money, bro. All about the money.
I don't accept like that's like the other thing. Like I get like that's the current media they have out and like that's fine, but like I don't accept or acknowledge that shit as canon at all. I've tried as hard as I can to pretend it doesn't exist. Like you can ask Steve, even when we play Battlefront, like I don't use any of the sequel trilogy characters at all.
Yeah.
Like I like some of the maps. Like some of the maps are cool in the game.
I'm
I guess
probably the
like
only
some of
one
the
that
planets
uses
are cool.
Kylo Ren.
Yeah, and like Kylo's not even bad in that game. I just neither really is
Kylo
Rey.
Ren,
I just like refuse to use any of them because like I'm like this shit is so stupid. Like and like Kylo is another thing I was saying how they're all comparable. Kylo is like a whinier version of Anakin that was just pushed to the dark side as a kid. Like that
he was easily the best thing to come out of that trilogy though.
I think the biggest missed opportunity was Snoke. Like they could have done so much more with that. And then it just was like, nah, we're just gonna do Palpatine.
By the way, so on
again, by the way, as if he getting thrown down the reactor shaft that exploded somehow didn't kill him. Like
on sorry. I was gonna on Comic Book Herald's podcast recently, they were talking about Kurt Busiek's Avengers run, and they were like, what do they say? They were like, oh, it's fun if you just want to read comics because you like the characters, but the story isn't good. It's like, you just want to be like hanging with your faves. And that's kind of like how I feel about that trilogy. It's like, if you really love Star Wars so much that you just want to watch a Star Wars movie and that's like what you want to watch, fine. But like, you can't claim it to be even in the best of Star Wars because like the first two trilogies were really good, and this is kind of similar to what we spoke about with like Boba Fett. Like, maybe Boba Fett would have been, at least in my eyes, I don't know how you feel about it, Matt, but like I said, I was saying before how I think the Mandalorian and what's the other one of Obi-Wan were amazing. I love both of them, and then Boba Fett came out, and it was like, it wasn't that great, and maybe it would have been good to me if the other two didn't exist. But like, when you compare the most recent trilogy to the first two trilogies, like if that was the first Star Wars trilogy that came out, Star Wars would not have been as popular, and the second two trilogies, the episodes 1 to 3 and 4 to 6 trilogies probably never would have came out if the most recent Disney trilogy was the first one to come out, because it would have not have been successful, and it only really is successful because it has that Star Wars name attached to it, and that's why hanging with your face, like it's a stupid thing to say, but it makes so much sense.
Yeah, like it was just I don't know, it was almost like insulting. Like that's one of those things where like I was saying when we were at Ant-Man, I was like, everybody always laughs about how they think that I like want to hate these movies. Those are a perfect example of movies that I genuinely wanted to like so bad. Like I was so hyped. Like when they announced the new trilogy, like I saw I saw 7 and 9 in theaters. I didn't see 8 because I was told that it was the absolute worst film ever made, and it was pretty bad. So I didn't go see it. And even when I watched it, like I watched it for the first time, I'm pretty sure I remember exactly where I was. I was down the beach at one of my boys' houses, and we watched it, and I was like, "This shit is terrible." Like I was just watching the whole movie, and it just got progressively worse and worse and worse. And then it got to the end where like Luke does that thing where he like reach out through the force thing, but not actually be there, and then just die on a random cliff. Like I was so confused by like that whole thing too. I was like, I don't even know what just happened, but I guess Luke's dead now. And then we were yeah, I was just like, okay. And then but I literally wanted to like those movies so bad. Like I was like, I want to be a fan of these movies. Like Kylo looks cool. You know what I mean? Like Rey, whatever. Like they're gonna introduce Luke in the next one. You know what I mean? Like or reintroduce Luke. It's gonna be cool. Like he's gonna train her. None of that happened. He like didn't even really train her. They just like walked around the island, and then she just walked into the temple, and then she left, and then she was just randomly just a god in the force. Like it just the whole thing made no sense. And like to me, it's just it misses out on like the aspect of like what Star Wars is. Like Star Wars is always supposed to be like George Lucas always says like it's not about the lightsabers and the spaceships and about all that. It's actually about the characters, and it's about the characters like and how they interact with each other and the larger story that's at play there. Whereas like with the sequel trilogy, the story isn't there. So then you're forced to focus on aspects like, oh, Kylo looks really cool. Like his lightsaber hilt looks really cool. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that makes him stand out as being a better character. But in reality, like his character kind of sucked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like,
So wait, so real quick, guys, off topic because I'm looking at I'm in this chat and people are going nuts. So apparently in the Flash, because y'all know that the girl that plays Bat woman, she's Red Death in the new Flash season.
Oh, I
So
saw the scene go
so
viral
apparently
today.
she said, yeah, she said I am vengeance, kind of hinting to Robert Pattinson, and everyone's pissed. I'm
Yeah.
about to play the audio.
well, I mean, Red Death is like supposed to be Batman and the Flash together. So like in the CW.
Vengeance.
Oh yeah, that sounds really bad. But
Yeah,
It
that sounds
looks
actually terrible.
it looks just as bad as it
Yeah,
sounds too.
yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
but
it is
yeah, sorry,
it is what it is. Like Red Death's supposed to be Batman, and in the CW
that's actually
universe,
fire.
Batwoman is the
Yeah,
only
if it
Batman
was
that
done right.
exists. So I guess that's
Yeah,
it is what it is, kind of thing. You know?
yeah, that was just off topic, but I want to get to the real meat and potatoes real quick because Matt sent us a article. I think it was yesterday of and you were going to get a shout out. Alex Betty. Is that how I should say her name at, or should I say Alex Bat?
It could be bait. I have no idea.
Yeah, so Alex Bate,
I have
she
no
writes
idea.
for Screen Rant. Matt sent me a really funny text. I'm not going to say to what he said because we might get demonetized on here. But she wrote this article about Star Wars and her opinions on the prequels. So Matt, can you just give everyone a quick can you explain to everyone what she said in the article?
It seemed like what she was, because then, like in her response to what when you messaged her, it seemed like she wasn't saying what the article said. But like what the article basically said was that like George Lucas mishandled the Chosen One prophecy in the prequels, and it wasn't thoroughly explained enough, and it made it like really confusing and all this stuff, and it should have focused more on the prophecy and less on like his interactions with the characters and stuff within Star Wars, which is where like it completely lost me because I was like, I don't think this person understands the point of the prequel trilogy then. So like that was kind of like why I was confused. Like I just was reading the article and I was like, yeah, I don't think this person seems to understand like why the chosen one like the reason that the chosen one prophecy isn't spoken of extensively in the prequel trilogy is because none of the Jedi want to acknowledge that Anakin is or isn't the chosen one. That's part of the problem. And that's why they all treat him the way they do. Like they don't trust him, they think he's reckless, they think he's arrogant. They never wanted to train him in the first place. Like so the reason that the prophecy is never actually mentioned or not mentioned a lot is because first of all, Mace Windu actually believes that he might be the chosen one. That's number one. number two is none of them know for sure if he is or if he isn't. He's supposed to be the chosen one. And so, yes, like there are periods of his life that are glossed over and covered in the Clone Wars and in the Clone Wars, the movie and the TV show, that actually show his greater feats of power, although that was thoroughly shown a lot to me in the movies anyway. But like the thing with Anakin is that like the reason the prequel trilogies are done that way is because his interactions with all these characters are all foreshadowing his fall to the dark side. Like, yes, I understand that that might not make it the best cinema in the sense that you kind of know exactly what's going to happen because the original trilogy came out first, so you know he's going to become Vader. But at the same time, like they have to do this because Anakin is an extremely emotional character. That's his whole. That's the whole thing that constantly gets him in trouble with the council, with Obi-Wan, with Padme, with everybody in his life. So if you don't focus on these relationships in his life, then it's not going to make sense as to why he just randomly turns to the dark side. Like if your reason for him turning to the dark side is he was the chosen one and they didn't want him to be, or they didn't treat him like he was, so he got mad and just turned to the dark side, that would have really fucking sucked. Like that movie sucks. You know, I'm sorry, but like the way that it was done intentionally so that all these things in his life kept spiraling out of control one by one by one, and he kept slipping closer to Palpatine so that he could become Darth Vader. That's the whole purpose of the prequels. So yeah, as I was reading that article, it was very confusing because I was like, I feel like I never got that watching the movies. You know what I mean? Like I never was like, they should mention the prophecy more. Like I saw something the other day on YouTube. It was like relating to the same thing. It was like, do you guys remember in Attack of the Clones when the Battle of Geonosis first starts and I forget his name, but he's a Jedi Master on the Council. He like jumps up on the balcony to confront Dooku and like Django like shoots him a couple times and he falls to his death.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, like the title of the short was like something like the dumbest Jedi ever or something like that. And they were like, and in the video, the guy's like, I don't understand why like this guy's allowed on the Council and Anakin's not. Like, obviously, Anakin's better in combat than he is. So, like, at that time, the Jedi
Padawan, though. He's young.
Well, they also hadn't been in any conflict in over 1,000 years.
Yeah.
They didn't need to be proficient in combat. Like, the Clone Wars hadn't started yet. Like, these people weren't out lightsaber dueling Sith on a regular basis. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't even know these things existed until, like, 5 years before the events of that movie. So, like, these people aren't battle-hardened Jedi like we saw throughout the Clone Wars, where like you had all these Jedi becoming generals and whatnot. And it goes back to what I was saying is like, while like the fans all see those movies and they're like, Anakin should be on the Council. He's the chosen one. Okay, that's not what. First of all, no one knows in universe that he is the chosen one. For one, and for two, doesn't just grant you the right to be on the Council. Like Anakin was young, he was naive, he was arrogant. Those are none of the things that you want on the Council. He was.
And it was off of Qui-Gon's word, and they had
right.
a lot of thoughts about Qui-Gon as well.
Well, Qui-Gon declined being on the Council, and it's also important to note that like Qui-Gon was supposed to train him and didn't. So that was the other thing, was they already didn't really want him trained, but if anyone was going to train him, it was supposed to be Qui-Gon, who ended up not training them because he died, and now Obi-Wan has to train him. So, like, there's a lot of other aspects as to why the Chosen One prophecy, A, isn't mentioned a lot, and B, why Anakin the way he was designed was so that he would be beloved by fans, and so that people would actually be so upset when he fell to the dark side and lost to Obi-Wan. That's why that movie is so great. It's because over the last, however long the prequels went to come out, 6 years? Over the last 5 years, you've like fallen in love with this character. You want them to succeed so well because everything always seems to go wrong in their life. And they're actually a good person, but you slowly get to see them fall one step at a time to the point where you're just as devastated as Obi-Wan is in that last scene. That's why those movies work, and that's why that scene works so well.
Okay. Bro, you just dug deep, and this is why we pod. Comic Cuts. How did you feel about the article? Did you read the article?
I didn't read the article, but I from what Matt said, I think he nailed it. Like, it's obvious that it was very obvious that they didn't like Anakin, and from the beginning, and that it was that synergy that like progressed the story, because that's what led to Anakin getting more frustrated, and it's kind of like when like Michael Jordan, I forget exactly what happened, but when he first started playing basketball, like the rest of the team, like in the very beginning, like didn't really respect him. I'm pretty sure it was Jordan, and it for obvious reason. He was this hot shot rookie.
You're
Everyone was
talking about when
talking
they
about.
froze him out at like I think it was the All Star game. They like didn't pass him the ball or something.
Yes, yes, exactly, exactly. So, similarly, Anakin, Obi-Wan thinks he's the chosen one. He comes in, he's this young kid. He's obviously very talented. He's obviously very smart. And with the prophecy, like, it was something that they weren't really supposed to, it was kind of like part of Jedi culture. We don't really talk about it because we're not really sure. And it's like, if you can't pick up on that, like, you know, that's, by the way, and it's people like that writer that are the problem with movies nowadays. I remember when I was in film club and film class in high school, and the teacher who I really liked, Mr. Cabot, used to always say, how a lot of directors that are good don't insult the intelligence of their viewers. And nowadays, directors have to insult the intelligence of their viewers because you get articles like this that Star Wars shouldn't have had to have told us that, okay, the prophecy is something that we don't really talk about. That's just Jedi culture. Anakin's getting frustrated with the council because they don't respect him because the other Jedi's are jealous of him. Like, these are all very basic things that you're supposed to be able to pick up on. And if you can't, then you're not really fully experiencing Star Wars.
Right, and like another thing is, a lot of people don't understand like why, and well, why would he be disliked? Like, no, he's loved by the audience, but he's disliked by his peers. Like, put yourself back in like seventh, eighth grade. Like, imagine there's like that kid that like it's happened. Everybody has met somebody like this in their life. Like, imagine that kid who like transfers into school. He's immediately like the best player on all the sports teams. He's acing all of his classes. He's getting all the girls. Like, that's Anakin. Everybody hates that kid.
I
You
mean,
know what I'm
it's even
saying?
worse, bro.
Yeah.
Right. Like, he was so
It's
strong
like a
in the
freaking
Force.
young gun around all old heads who are just grumpy and angry because
Right. And
they were
he's
at the top of the
so
heap, and then this young
powerful.
boy just comes in, just
Yeah.
OP.
Yeah, they just
Like,
don't get it. He's like so powerful, but he's so focused on, even though his midichlorian count is so high, which they did talk about in the first movie, he's so focused on his lightsaber skills and fighting and combat instead of focusing on what he can do with the Force and his potential and ability there. That is like the whole, like I said, the whole story of Anakin is laid out in the prequel trilogy, and a lot of people just miss that because they're so caught up in like little things like what you were saying. Like, I'm sorry, I don't need the prophecy explained to me. Like, I do think I have looked up what the official prophecy actually says, and I'm pretty sure the reason George Lucas left it out of the movie is because it's actually confusing as fuck if you actually read it. But it was designed that
I'm
way
about
on
to search it up
purpose.
now.
But it was designed that way on purpose. Like, the whole, like, that's another thing people miss out on is the Jedi misread the prophecy. You know what I mean? Like, which is why they got it wrong. Anakin is the chosen one. That's another thing that like a lot of people apparently get confused about.
Yeah, it's
Anakin
not Luke, guys.
is the chosen one, and it's definitely not Rey. Anakin is the chosen one, and George Lucas has said that himself. Anakin is the one who throws Palpatine down the reactor shaft. And to all the people that have, I had somebody say this to me before. To all the people that are sitting there saying that like Luke tanked Palpatine's lightning in Episode 6, I'm sorry, but laying on the floor and screaming for your dad is not tanking anything. He was literally
yeah.
like 2 seconds away from dying. So I don't know where like that narrative came from either, but like, yeah, as far as like the chosen one, it is 1000% Anakin. And
Yeah,
it's also, the prophecy can be interpreted a lot of different ways. Like, I bet you Qui-Gon interpreted the prophecy, excuse me, drastically different than the Jedi did. The whole reason that Qui-Gon didn't take his seat on the council is because he disagreed with a lot of the Jedi philosophy, same way that Dooku did when Dooku left.
By the way, I am really hoping that we get more out of Cal Kestis. The Jedi Fallen Order was obviously very popular, and the sequel is getting so much hype, almost like Hogwarts Legacy level hype. And who knows, because we still have a couple months before it comes out. But I think that it also takes place in one of the most interesting times in the Star Wars timeline. Right after execute Order 66 in between episodes 3 and 4. I think it would be really cool, if we got some kind of Disney Plus show or even a movie. And I don't know how to pronounce that guy, the actor's name, but the actor that plays him, would be obviously ideal for the role. The same actor, he was talented. I don't know if you guys watched Gotham, but Gotham was incredible. He played the Joker. Yeah, they didn't call it the Joker, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah, I want to see more from Cal Kestis, and that I would love.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
It's horrible.
I wouldn't mind either, but you know, I actually I think I wouldn't like that, bro. And I don't.
I told you I
don't
want to
think-
see Vader murk his ass, bro.
Yeah, and the reason why I don't think I would is because I feel like they would try to make him a overpowered character that he's not. Like he's just like, to me, he's like Ezra, bro. Like they're just regular, Force users that can just do a couple of cool things,
Yeah,
and you can only go so far with those type of characters in that story. I do hope that in the Ahsoka show that we get to see Ezra, but still, like, even if we get to see Ezra, there's only so much that you can do because they're not that special of characters, But back to the Anakin stuff, I really do think that Star Wars, the Clone Wars, Dave Filoni, he definitely tried his best to give us like the Anakin content. You know what I mean? Like I remember the one episode.
Yo,
I think,
guys, I gotta run.
all right,
I'm
brother.
gonna call it night. But
Thank
have
you
a
for
good
hopping
night.
on, bro.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Of
doing
course.
this too. Have
Of
me.
course. Saturday. But yeah,
Yes.
yeah, Saturday. But yo, Matt, do you remember the one Star Wars episode? I think the planet's called Mortis, right?
Yeah, the planet Mortis is a Sith planet.
Yeah. So, dude, please explain that, because me like personally, I have a hard time trying to understand it, and I watched a bunch of videos on it. So, is the father is he like the balanced force, and then his son and daughter, like, one's the dark side and one's the light side?
Yeah, kind of. I haven't watched it in a while, but yeah, basically they're supposed to be like I'm trying to think of like a way to something to compare it to. They're like entities of the Force, but it's hard to draw a comparison to it. But yeah, in that episode, Anakin, um, doesn't he fight someone to a standstill in that episode?
So basically, well, it even flashed his future as Darth Vader, but which was super dope. But basically, what happened was the dark,
yeah,
dude. I was actually watching the episode like not too long because I was trying to figure it out. But the son that is basically the living embodiment of the dark side. He captured Ahsoka, and he was about to kill her or like drop her, and then basically Anakin just
Anakin has to save her. Yeah.
And he turns into like a Force god and just wrecks them both, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
well, the Clone Wars in general was notorious for just giving people more insight into Anakin's raw power.
Yeah,
and, like,
that to me shows you that he's literally like at the time the most powerful Force user of all time. Like, he legit.
Anakin had the highest Force potential, and I mean, like, if you don't count Legends, like, that's like another thing that people constantly, like, I've said this before, it irritates the living hell out of me. Like, people forget that, like, Legends Luke is not the same as canon Luke. So, like, people always try to say things like, well, Luke is the most powerful, Luke's most powerful. Not in canon. I'm sorry, he's not. Like, he doesn't have any of the feats in canon that he has in Legends that put him on the same level as, like, Yoda and Anakin. Like, he's still powerful, but he's not on the level that people try to put him at. Like, they put him on this pedestal that, like, he's like this godlike being, and that's because in Legends he is. Like, there's insane comic book Legends comic books.
Yeah, I've seen he's actually nuts.
Actually doing ridiculous things, which is cool, but like, canon Luke is not as powerful as Legends Luke. He's not even close.
Do you like that, or like cool. do you like that he's not as powerful as?
Yeah, Legends I actually hate Legends. Like, There's some really cool stories in there, but I like a lot of really cool stories. But I can't really say I hate Legends. I hate Legends Luke specifically because so a lot of the Legend stuff was fan made because George approved a lot of the shit that was written in it, and that made it like cool. But at the same time, like I always saw it as a bunch of people that were just bitter that Luke wasn't the chosen one. So they wrote these novels to basically try to make him seem absurdly powerful. You know what I mean? To like make it, and it just got so annoying to the point where it was like it's a Luke fanboy club is really what Legends Luke is to me. Like it's just kind of like annoying, and it's the same way I feel about the sequel to like everyone trying to like champion Rey as being this super powerful being. Like you can try to shove it down my throat, but I'm not going to accept it. You know what I mean? And like a lot of people were mad when Disney made Legends non-canon. I was fine with it, but I also think they need to make the sequel trilogy non-canon because that shit is awful.
I agree. I think that they should make it non-canon also. Just and not even to satisfy the fans. It's just terrible content. Like this is call it how we see it. Like
yeah, it was just bad. Those movies were just bad. Like they were just bad movies. They fundamentally didn't have a like so all the Star Wars trilogies have a very chronological start and finish. The sequel trilogy doesn't. Like it starts off in this place, and the characters don't really, outside of like I said, Kylo and then maybe Finn to an extent, don't really seem to progress that much. Like Rey progresses in the sense that they make her appear more powerful throughout the movies, but we don't really get to see her become that powerful. Like she just randomly, like she's already like for whatever reason randomly strong with the lightsaber and the Force, and then in the second movie she's slightly more powerful, and then in the Rise of Skywalker she's like a god for no reason at all. You know what I mean? If you could make the argument that we didn't necessarily see Luke do that either, but like I would actually make the argument that Luke wasn't really all that powerful in Return of the Jedi. Like he's powerful enough. It's reasonable to believe that Luke is powerful enough that he could have gotten through the teachings that were left behind by Obi-Wan and Yoda to the point where he was at. He's a Jedi Knight in that movie. And people a lot of times are like, well, he beat Vader. Yeah, Vader was also very conflicted and old and
so
you know what I mean?
So you would say that he's levels ahead powerful in like Mandalorian. He's like OP at that point. Would you say that?
He's way more powerful in Mandalorian than he is in Return of the Jedi, for sure. 1000%. He's way more powerful. It does irritate me though. Like I said the same thing about. So he's a Jedi Master in Mandalorian.
Yeah.
How? Like how did he get there? How did you grant yourself the rank of Master?
Could it have been the Force Ghost?
I don't know. But my whole point, like my whole thing is like I'm like how do you grant yourself the rank of Master? Like that shit made no sense to me. Now he does seem to be a lot more powerful in the Mandalorian, especially than he was in Return of the Jedi. And a lot of people will be like, well, that was just CGI, this, that, and the other. Look, I don't care. The point is that in the movie, he doesn't actually appear that powerful at all. He seems like he's on par with other Jedi Knights from the Clone Wars era. Like, but I would say for their age, he's nowhere near as powerful as Anakin was at his age. But
I agree, brother.
Anakin also had the Jedi, or like the actual Jedi Order and his trainings that were very strict, and he had Obi-Wan as a master who was alive. You know what I mean? So like he had a lot more tools at his disposal as to why he became more powerful. I would love if they just gave Luke a sideshow. Like I think that would be great to like show his journey and how he becomes more powerful. I think you can do a lot with that. But there's a lot of shows I think they should do. I'm excited for Ahsoka. Boba Fett, like I said, it just didn't feel like Boba Fett to me at all. Like as a fan of the character. Hard. Yeah, they tried to make him like this good guy, and like he's turning over a new leaf and he's living with the Tuskens and all this. It was just very not Boba Fett to me. Mando is a lot more like Boba Fett than Boba Fett, which is fine. You know what I mean? But like, they also never fully disclose how long Boba Fett was actually in the Sarlacc for, but I would imagine it's not that long.
Yeah. Do you think that the Lucasfilm front office had a lot to do with why Grogu went back to Mando so fast?
I mean, I think it was definitely a decision that they had to make. If you just look at it from like a marketing standpoint, Grogu helped that show a lot. You know what I mean? I think a lot of passionate Star Wars fans like the show, but Grogu is like the character that it's like when you watch something like that, like you're into it, and then your girl watches it with you because of Grogu, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think from a marketing standpoint, it makes a lot more sense to have Grogu in it. But at the same time, it did feel very pointless for him to leave, and then they throw that in the Mandalorian, so now Grogu's back for season 3. Um, Maybe it could have been production issues, or they could have had plot issues, or they wanted Grogu in, or they didn't want Grogu in. They were going through different versions of the script. You know what I mean? When they made the decision at the end of season 2, and then
Yeah.
made the decision of Boba Fett to bring it back, it did just feel really rushed and pointless, though, because if we're being honest, it didn't look like Grogu learned all that much
Yep. And
while he was there.
but it seems like he's going to be using like the Force a whole lot more in this season. But one of the trailers made me laugh, bro, because Bo-Katan is like throwing shots at Mando, and I'm sitting here like, Bo-Katan. Sorry, I've said Bo-Katan for years. I just don't. I don't know Bo-Katan, but Bo-Katan, right, bro? She was throwing shots at Mando, and I'm sitting here thinking like, Shorty, like don't act like we didn't forget the stuff you did. Like you're the reason why Mandalorian is like done. It's like
They were throwing
bro.
shots at Boba, and
Yeah, bro.
that was
Like,
which I thought was.
the
I
reason
still
why
think they
Mando was done.
mishandled that scene. That scene specifically in what was it, the end of Mandalorian season 2?
Bro, she basically led Mandalore to its destruction. Like,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
she's sitting here talking heavy to Din. I'm like,
Yeah, but none of them know that.
Yep.
That's the thing. None of them know that, which that's why I hope that I don't know if we'll actually see Maul in this season, which I kind of do hope that we do. I felt like all of his deaths kind of suck, to be honest. Like,
so you think Maul could still be alive?
it depends on what they want to do. If they want to make Rebels non-canon, I know they've talked about it before, just because of a lot of the stuff that happens in it.
But do you think that if
if
it is true that Ahsoka's going for Ezra, then it obviously is canon. Would you? I mean, I even think it would be dope. I think we could possibly see Sabine in this as well, and maybe she's the one to call out Bo.
Maybe. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we could see, but it's so the original plan for George Lucas's sequel trilogy, like I've said before, was actually for Maul to be the main villain. So the way they're structuring this universe right now, Maul being dead doesn't really work. Like, it seems like the way they're setting up their version of events after Return of the Jedi is basically in line with what George Lucas had written. You know what I mean? Outside of them creating Mando and doing all this stuff with the Mandalorians. Like, as far as
what about Thrawn
going
though?
back and training the Jedi Order and all this stuff, huh?
But what about, because I mean, you could also make an argument that it seems like Thrawn is also going to have a part to play in this as well.
Thrawn?
Yeah.
I thought Thrawn died on the Death Star in Episode 4.
Like
blue
Thrawn. No, I'm talking like Thrawn, like blue skin Thrawn.
Oh.
From Star Wars Rebels.
I mean, maybe
like,
it just depends. Like, no, who am I thinking of?
Did you like Thrawn?
He was all right. Who am I thinking of? Who's the one that died on the Death Star?
Yeah, Moff isn't. Moff is alive still. You're talking about
not Moff.
I'll have to search it off for you.
Yeah, I'm getting their names confused.
Yeah, because basically,
Thrawn.
bro.
Yeah, not Thrawn.
General Tag, Colonel Yularen, Admiral Monty, and Grand Moff Tarkin.
I think it was Tarkin's who I'm thinking of.
Yeah, Tarkin.
I would say Tarkin. Didn't he die?
Yeah,
no,
he's dead.
like, I don't know what they're setting up. I mean,
and that's what a lot of fans are talking about, bro. That like
my
issue
with Maul's death is like, so I like the storytelling behind Maul's death and him dying to Obi-Wan. I don't like the fact that he's saying that Luke is the chosen one in that scene. I really hate that. I just think there's a lot more potential for Maul. Like, he's Star Wars' most fumbled character by far. Like,
I can agree with that.
he was immensely popular following the Phantom Menace, which is why they decided to bring him back. And then even when you brought him back, you still kind of made him like a joke of a character, which I always felt like was dumb.
I don't
Like-
I didn't like that Ahsoka cooked him so hard and so easily.
Yeah, I don't either. Like, and
Clone
now,
Wars.
granted, it is always like part of Maul's biggest flaw is always that he wants to embarrass his opponent.
Yeah.
Like, Maul could have beaten Ahsoka. And
Yeah,
so,
but
like,
he got
that's the thing.
embarrassed though. Like he legit got like overpowered, like on some crazy
Right.
time.
But and like that's always like the thing is like it's so weird when you talk about Maul's. As far as Maul's power level, he's actually more powerful than pretty much everyone he fights. He's more powerful than Ahsoka. He's more powerful than Obi-Wan. The problem is just that he constantly like overestimates himself and underestimates his opponent and tries to embarrass and humiliate them, which ultimately always ends up with him being embarrassed. And like that's always his biggest issue and always has been. And I kind of wish they would tone it down a little bit because sadly, like we typically always see Maul lose and never win, even though in reality, like I said, he's immensely powerful and he's extremely popular. He's the amount of people that this is like their favorite Star Wars character, and he has the most minimal screen time. It's kind of crazy when you think about it.
Yeah. Now, if they do bring back Maul, that would actually be super exciting. I would actually look forward to that.
But then
Like,
I'd have to explain it.
Yeah, they would have to.
That would be kind of hard to explain. You know what I mean? Like he kind of like clearly died to Obi-Wan.
But there were still remnants of what's called out there, remnants of the clones and stuff out there. They could have found. They could have came up. They could come up with something. If Reva survived the stab, a freaking lightsaber stab to the freaking chest, bro, by
Twice.
by freaking Vader, bro.
That shit actually irritates the fuck out of me.
How did Reva get all the way to freaking Tatooine?
Why do lightsabers not kill people anymore? Like I'm so confused. Why do lightsabers not kill people? Why do they not cut right through people? Like I'm so confused on Disney's insistence with like lightsabers not killing anyone. The only explanation for like a lightsaber not going right through somebody is if they're wearing Beskar. That's literally it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But as far as like when Obi-Wan was hitting those stormtroopers, like why was he just not cutting straight through them? Like I don't understand that at all. Why is somebody surviving multiple shots from a lightsaber? Like Vader, it makes sense because of his armor and because of the fact that he's Vader. You know what I mean? But like I understand like it's definitely reaching a little bit for Maul to somehow survive on pure hatred when he was cut in half. Now granted, it is
you
true
could always
that
do a clone.
when a lightsaber cuts directly through you, it actually cauterizes instantly. So it instantly closes the wound. That's why there's no blood. Like people always ask why there's no blood. It's because it's so hot that it instantly cauterizes when
I never knew that, bro. That is interesting.
But it's still a stretch. You cut somebody in half. Like it's kind of still a stretch that he survived the first time. But like I think the majority of people would accept it. It's Star Wars, whatever. But as far as like the stuff they showed in Obi-Wan with Reva being stabbed twice, not once, twice by Vader and surviving, like it's just actually getting so stupid. Same thing with like Rey stabbing Kylo in what was that, episode 8?
Yeah.
And somehow he's alive or she's alive.
She
like,
healed him though.
Heals him.
She healed him, yeah.
But even then, like he should have died instantly. Like everyone else in every movie, they die immediately. Qui-Gon dies immediately. All those Jedi or all the just anytime there's a lightsaber duel ever, when they stab somebody, they die instantly. Like when they showed Grievous stab Shakti, instantly dead. Like I've never seen somebody not instantly die from a lightsaber outside of the Maul thing and then all this stuff in the sequel trilogy. Every other time, they die immediately.
Unless you can't even use the excuse that Kylo's rage kept him alive because he wasn't even rageful in that moment.
It's just, I don't know. There's just Disney's doing a lot of weird shit with this stuff, man. I don't get it.
Yeah, exactly. But apparently the rumor is that Kathy's going to be gone, and I think in the coming year because of just the bad, press and just doing a terrible job as running this thing. And apparently Filoni might be the guy to take the helm, so we'll see. But regardless of what happens, I know that Filoni is in the writing room, so I pray that that they figure it out and that they can come to some type of agreement, because I still stand by this, bro. Star Wars has had so many holes that needed to be filled, before the sequel trilogy should have even been thought of. And I wish that the trilogy that we dealt with was centered around other characters. Like I think that Ahsoka could have been used very well to be in a trilogy after Luke. Like I just think there were so many other characters that fans love that could have been just a focus instead of bringing on a bunch of new characters
Yeah, like I
and
don't. If they
that
wanted a
we just
female
didn't
lead, I
need.
always wondered that why they didn't use Ahsoka. Like you
Yeah,
did
Ahsoka would have been
Clone Wars, you
perfect.
did Rebels. Why did you not use Ahsoka for your sequel trilogy? Like that was always so confusing to me. Like I
Yes.
was like, especially because because she was Anakin's apprentice, she's already like tied in to the Skywalker family, not like directly, obviously, but she's already, you know what I mean, familiar.
And she hates the Jedi way, which makes it even more like interesting. You know what I mean? It's like it's like she already goes against the grain, and that's why in Mandalorian, when Ahsoka comes, she's so loved because like a character like Ahsoka, there's not much that you have to add to her as a character. Like Rosario plays Ahsoka like perfectly, bro. Like
Right.
there's not much that you have to add, you know? So
Yeah, I definitely wish that they like I said, the sequel trilogy just it felt like they like I said when I first started talking about it, Disney
yeah.
just wanted to try to make their own thing. It clearly failed because there are people like not even joking around about Lewis, but there are people that like genuinely do like the sequel trilogy. I don't personally, I don't know how, but like
Lewis.
yeah, but there are people that do like it, and like I'm glad that they like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like at the because like I said, I wanted to like it, so I am glad that there are people that like it. But I would still say the vast majority of people do not like it at all, and that's a sad reality because this generation's version of Star Wars is terrible. You know what I mean? Compared to what we grew up on, and compared to what our parents and everyone grew up on before that. So it's unfortunate, but hopefully they can turn it around. You know?
I agree. I agree. Yeah, dude. So and you know, and I and me personally, I believe that until Kathy's out of that office, we're not going to see any type of turnaround because Taika's project apparently is still in the works, and then it's like not in the works. There's so many projects that have just gone that have just been announced and just are not happening now. So they just have a lot to figure out over there, and
Andor was
it
good
is
though.
what it is. Andor was a good show.
Andor
Andor
was good.
was a good show. Not my preference because I'm just a lightsaber guy. I love the lore of Star Wars, but it was a really good show, and it also reached a lot of fans too that aren't into all of the fantasy of Star Wars.
Well, I liked Rogue One a lot as a movie.
Hmm.
Like that's one of those movies that I always felt like Jin and like her tying in with you know what I mean the rebel insurgent groups and the start of the rebellion and all that stuff. Because
Yeah,
like that was the thing is like Cassian doesn't really feel like Han Solo or anything, especially in this show. He's definitely not. You know what I mean? Um, and I feel like those characters kind of stand apart. Whereas, like for whatever reason, with Disney's sequel trilogy, like the storyline of those movies even is like the exact same as the original trilogy. Like the first film, they get a surprise win over the what's it called, the new First Order or whatever it's called, the new Empire.
yeah,
The second movie, they lose. You know what I mean? They like slightly win, but they lose. You know what I mean? And then the
yeah,
third movie, they redeem Kylo, which is they redeem Vader, and then they win. You know what I mean? And like
yeah.
Kylo dies just like how Vader died, and then, you know what I mean? It was like the movies were like literally the exact same blueprint as the original trilogy. The prequel trilogy does not do that, and I feel like that's part of what they are doing at least now with these shows is they're not at least following the same blueprint as every other Star Wars story, which I think is a good thing.
I agree. I agree, bro. As I said, there's always going to be hope, like somewhere, and I think that Mandalorian's going to be good. I think this is going to be a good year for Star Wars. I think that the Ahsoka show and Mandalorian is going to be good. I really am interested in what Acolyte has in store because I do feel like there's not enough exploration on the Sith, and I know you're a big fan of the Sith as well. I'm really excited to see, but I will say this: I would love if we just screwed this sequel stuff and we went to like the old Republic. I would love to get that type of Star Wars
I've
because like
always
the
felt like
old
they
the
should have
freaking
done
old
that.
Republic games are fire, huh, bro?
I've always felt like they should have done that.
I agree that'll be fire. You could even do the High Republic as well. I would go
Well,
old just
just
because it's more
even from
like
like we talked about earlier, Disney's all about profit, right? Just from a profitability standpoint, why would you make a sequel trilogy? It would make way more sense if you were to like, all right, let's start with the Old Republic, then go through, you know what I mean, the High Republic, then get to like the prequel trilogy era, like remake all the movies. You know how
yep.
much money there would be in that?
I agree.
Like now, granted, they probably would have fucked it up, but like it still is like just from a monetary standpoint, it really didn't make any sense for them to start at a sequel trilogy. Why wouldn't you remake the movies? Which I do hope they eventually do one day, like especially with like Filoni and like Favreau there, like just because like we definitely could use a modernized version of the original trilogy.
Wait. So you're saying like for them to literally like recast and redo it?
Everything, yeah, but they should start from the beginning, like not start from the prequel trilogy, start from way before that, like
And basically just work their way down. So basically, like they would recast Anakin and everything.
when they get to his character, yeah, absolutely.
That
But we
is
would
an interesting. I've
but then
never
we
heard
would
no one
even
say that. That's
because
interesting.
then we would even get to see things like you would get to see Plagueis and Palpatine actually manipulating the midichlorians to create Anakin. You would get to see all the Sith backstory and all these things that never were fully explained. You would have films worth of time to explain all this stuff and also just paint a larger picture of how vast the lore and galaxy of Star Wars is in general. Like that's one of the things that I think we miss a lot. Like I would love to see like the scene where like Django actually meets with the Kaminoans and Dooku's secretly negotiating the army. I would also love to see like all like like I said, the High Republic era and the stuff where like, and then like the right before the Clone Wars, like the New Republic, where you have like, you know what I mean, Dooku, where he's still a Jedi and all this stuff explained, like, because then you just really get to see the characters progress more.
Yeah,
And I think it would just be one of those things where it would be a way for there to constantly be content, and then you could do shows to fill in gaps and stuff like that. Like, there's a
yeah,
lot of stuff that they could do with that. And just a ton of money to be made, which is why, like I said, I'm just surprised Disney hasn't already been like, why don't we just do that?
yeah. So do you agree that the way that George released these films was very like backwards?
I mean, like it was, but it was also
Did
like done
did
that
you
way.
like
Like,
that? Like would you rather have George done it like 1 to 6 rather than like 4? Like you know what I mean?
I mean,
Four
I
to
feel like
six and then
obviously in
1 to 3.
hindsight, yeah, it would definitely be would definitely would have been cooler to have seen it because then you just really wouldn't have expected Anakin's fall to the dark side and really wouldn't have expected him to become Darth Vader. But it was also part of what made it like cool because you saw how he was as Darth Vader and he was so menacing, the greatest Jedi killer ever. You know what I mean? He was just an absolute behemoth of a character. And then you slowly see him like, and then you go back to see him, his story from when he was a kid, see him progress through the ranks of being a Jedi, and see him grow and grow and grow in power until he eventually falls. And you get to see the whole thing. So it kind of was cool to see it in reverse because you get to see it come full circle. Like it's not the
Yeah,
only film they've ever done where they did the original movie, or in this case, original trilogy, and then the prequel after. But yeah, I didn't hate it, but like, sure, don't you think it would probably have been cooler? Like, think about like if they were to ever actually, if they were to actually do this, by the time we got to where they were remaking the prequels, we're talking at least, if they were starting today, we're talking at least 20, 25 years before they even get to the prequels, right? So like,
that's what I was just thinking, bro. I was like, that would take like 50 some years, but I still think that would be an awesome way to go because
yeah,
now
because from a yeah,
you're just going down like the freaking timeline.
right, but also from a monetary standpoint, like that's 50 years worth of revenue, bro. Like
That's no, that's billions
nobody's,
on that's
yeah,
billions on
nobody's
billions, bro.
ever gonna get tired of seeing Star Wars. I'll tell you that right now. Like it's just
Yeah,
even these movies that we're talking about sucked all did at least close to or over $1 billion in theaters. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like, so, but that's the thing though is like it was almost cool to see it go full circle then. But like if you were to do it now, like imagine 20, 25 years from now, like a kid seeing this for the first time, they're gonna be shocked to see Anakin become Darth Vader. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it would be almost the opposite effect of what Darth Vader originally had in the original trilogy when people described the first time seeing him on screen.
yeah, bro. Yo, that is like that really just blew my mind. I don't know why. I've just never thought of it that way of Disney like remaking them all. That would actually be super dope.
But
That
it
would
would
actually be
have to
super
be
dope.
done correctly, and it would have to George's input would have to be present.
Oh
Like
yeah,
George would
he would
have
have
to
to be
be there.
there.
Yeah, he would have to be there in order for it to work. Like you would need, especially while he's still alive, This is definitely something that should be like if they were going to do it, this is something that I would at least be like, at least ask him if he should like do some storyboards and stuff. Like
Bro,
because
like they even had George helping out on the set of Mandalorian, like,
as they should. Why
and
wouldn't
and
you? He
yeah, why
created the
wouldn't
whole.
exactly, bro? And for some reason, Disney just didn't reach out to this. They literally just took his script and just hid it in the dark, bro. Like it's nuts. It's nuts.
It's not even they didn't just not reach out to him. They legitimately have his storyboards for the sequel trilogy and just chose to ignore them. That's what makes it even worse is the fact that like he gave them the blueprint for the movies. Like he told you what to do. He gave you all the characters, he gave you everything. All you had to do was follow it and you chose not to and it sucked. Like that's one of the things that I think Disney really doesn't want people to know is that like George has openly talked about like he legitimately when he sold them Lucasfilm, he gave them the rights and he gave them the storyboards for the sequel trilogy that he had finished working on. The whole reason he sold it was because he was at the point where he was about to start filming the sequel trilogy. And then it was like, it's going to take, 5 to 10 years, whatever, to do it. And he was like, I'm going to be this age by then. Do I want to focus on, you know what I mean, doing this for the next 10 years? Or do I want to focus on my family and other projects that he wanted to do? Which is why he chose to sell it. But it's like, bro, the guy made one of the guy. I mean, it has to be the most beloved franchise of all time.
It is the
And
most
you
beloved. It has
managed to
to
fuck
be.
it up. He gave you the blueprint and you somehow still fucked it up. That's the craziest part.
I agree. Well, all right, guys, we're wrapping it up here. So, obviously, with the rumor of Ray coming back, I mean, just to give our final answers, I actually like Ray as a character. I think Daisy really is a great actress. She just has they gave her no direction. Daisy didn't know that Ray was a Palpatine until the last film. You know why? Because the writers didn't even know. They were making it up as they were going along. So it's sad. Ray was legit a wasted character. I think she had potential to be a very loved character. And so with Ray coming back, I hope that the right people are in the rooms. If I was Kathy, I would do Dave and Favreau like Feige did with the freaking Russos, bro. Just give them free reign to do whatever they want and let them cook it up. But you just never know what happens. So I just I am worried about the Star Wars franchise. I'm worried. Yeah, we are both worried, and Star Wars Celebrations is going to show how we're I think this is going to be the first year that the fans boo at Star Wars. Like, I legit think that if they announce another freaking trilogy with like sequel characters, I really, bro, do believe that they're going to get booed.
Yeah, for sure.
Because like now it's so bad, bro, that like the majority of fans don't like it. Like the majority.
Like I said, like I said earlier, there are people I know that like it, but the vast majority of people, from what I've read and from people I know, hate it.
Mm-hmm. Same. So we can only see, but just to let you guys know, we are going to be doing some watch parties soon. I really want to do some DC animated stuff with Matt. I think we're gonna do Batman Beyond, and I think that we're gonna also be doing same here. I also think that me and Matt are also going to be doing some DC AU stuff. So I think we're gonna be doing like Justice League Dark, and we're gonna be going through all those. So just stay tuned. We're gonna be putting some commentaries out on that. Mando comes out in the next week, so we are going to bring back the watch parties. So we're going to be doing that, and you'll be hearing a review from us every week on Mando. So peace out, y'all. Have a good night. Deuces.